Hi, my name is Stephen and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Lessons Learned Part 21, How to Craft Your 5-Year Plan. In these series of episodes, I'm going to share with you the lessons I learned along the journey of my life, and I'll cover different aspects of my life now that I'm older, wiser, and can look back and see what I could have done differently. The goal is to provide others a guide or a path to skipping over my mistakes, so they can make the most out of their own journey in life. Establishing a 5-year plan is critical to knowing where you're going to go in the future, and it helps us to define a strategic roadmap of how we want to execute on our life's goals. This helps us with our decision making and our short-term goals, giving us the ability to figure out what we need to focus on in the near term and in the middle term. And ultimately, it can give us motivation and accountability of our actions if we don't complete something within each yearly milestones. Because once we have that plan in place and it's at the forefront of our mind, we will automatically work towards trying to complete those goals. In my early years, I've always had a 5 to 10 year plan in the back of my mind, and it provided a constant source of guidance and motivation when I was at my darkest times, because it helped me to see a bigger picture of where I wanted to take my life to. And as I engage with the 5-year plan, it helps me to solidify and figure out what my short-term and middle-term goals are. Because once you actually start to think about what your journey is, then you can start to see whether or not if it's good for you or not, and show you what you need to do to course correct to achieve your ultimate goal in life. The 5-year plan is flexible and it does change along the way. Nothing's set in stone. And the key is to constantly adjust your 5-year plan so you know your roadmap going forward. So here are some of the lessons I learned in crafting my own 5-year plan. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my background, my lessons learned, and my general thoughts. Before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with friends, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And here we go. Although 5 years is a long time to plan out life's goals, in the span of your life, it's really not that much time. We always overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 10 years. So keeping our goals in mind a couple of years out is an excellent way to make sure you're on track of something. And it can really help a person reach their goals much sooner in life. As a young person, I kept my goals really clear and written down whenever possible. And I put it somewhere that I can easily see and refer to on a day-to-day basis so I know what I'm doing in life, at least in the next couple of years. This gave me a roadmap to view and visualize each and every day so I know what the greater goal is in mind. And it helped me to navigate some of the tougher times in my life where things weren't so clear what the future of my life would be. These goals were broken up into short and long-term goals, but they ultimately aligned to what I wanted to achieve in 5 years. If it didn't match, I had to go back to the drawing board and see what I actually wanted in 5 years' time. And I made sure that whatever plan I did revise to, that I would commit the time and energy to completing that. The biggest lesson that I learned is that you can start planning at any stage of your life for a 5-year plan. Without a vision of our future, we just don't know what we're gonna do in life. And having a 5-year plan is just another tool to help us achieve our goals. For you, it can be a 1-year or a 10-year plan. The length of time doesn't matter as long as you have something down. Of course, you can still succeed without that plan, but it just takes more luck and circumstance rather than hard work and dedication. So with that in mind, here are some of the key lessons that I learned in crafting a 5-year plan. So here are my lessons learned. Number 1, what do you want to do? Determining what I truly want from my 5-year plan requires a lot of thought behind it. I need to look at my passions, values, and long-term aspirations. And I can do that by doing a self-reflection and self-assessment of what I truly want, and cross-reference that with things that I take joy in doing. This introspection helps me to identify key areas where things overlap, and that can be my goal for life, and help break down what I want to do in 5-year increments. There are many ways to figure out what you want to do, engaging in self-reflection, talking to other people, or career counselors. But the overall goal is to gain clarification of what you want to do short, middle, and long term in your life. And from that point on, you can break it into 5-year chunks, and then you can figure out what you want to do for each 5-year segment. This can be done at both a professional and personal growth development milestones. Personally, what I want goes through a lot of changes every 5 years of my life. But there are things that I just know that I'll enjoy doing, and I don't mind putting it as my goals. In the past, I wanted to be a photo booth operator, school tutor, and improviser. And those things changed from year to year depending on how good I was or the available time I had. But I always started with the passion of what I wanted to pursue in the meanwhile. The hardest part of a 5-year goal is the commitment phase of it. So with that in mind, you have to pick the things that you actually want to do and see to completion. Don't just pick goals in your 5-year plan just because you want goals to have. Putting it on a whiteboard and seeing it every day means nothing if you don't actively pursue it each and every day. So really ask yourself what you want to do in life and distill it down into 5-year chunks, and then you can go from there. Number 2, how can I improve? Identifying areas of improvement is definitely something you want to add in your 5-year plan, because I find it ultimately very useful for me to identify my strengths and weaknesses and improve upon my weaknesses and my strengths. Going through the personal growth process, sometimes you realize that you need to grow in certain areas or that you're weak in. So in this case, a 5-year plan is an excellent place to put where you can improve in the next 5 years. And you could also seek feedback from others to figure out where else you can improve. And when you're going through this exercise on self-improvement, make sure you have realistic goals that you want to attain to get better at something. Don't just say that you want to get better at public speaking and that's it. Make sure that specific goal has different milestones that you want to try to accomplish on your way to becoming a better public speaker. This self-improvement within my 5-year plan is critical to my personal growth and professional growth development. And make sure that I have middle-term milestones for self-reflection just to make sure that I'm progressing in my goals. The end state is that this 5-year plan will help us show what we actually want to do and improve upon ourselves at the same time. Self-improvement is very hard because first you have to identify your blind spot, convince yourself that you need to fix it, and then afterwards commit to a plan to actually getting better at it. And it takes a really long time for you to fix whatever your weakness is. With that being the case, I use it in my 5-year plan because I know it's going to take at least that much time for me to get better at something. And I know to give myself a lot of interim milestones along the way so I don't forget what I need to do and how to achieve my goals. And I have check-ins with myself to make sure I didn't regress in any one thing. My quest to become a better person has still taken the better part of a decade or more to complete. It's part of my ongoing continuous 5-year plan to improve myself. Some things I got better at in the last decade or so, some things have gotten worse. But all I can do is put it in front of me on my 5-year plan and work towards getting better at it. So using the 5-year plan to improve yourself is a great way to utilize this tool. Number 3, review and adjust. Regularly reviewing and assessing your 5-year plan along your way is very important. Circumstances and priorities might change in those 5 years, so be flexible. The best way to do it is schedule checkpoints along the way to make sure that you're on schedule or that you need to readjust. This can be done at an every year increment or 6 months. And it's a great way to re-strategize and recalibrate our expectations of that 5-year plan. And this reassessment of a 5-year plan could be minor or major changes depending on the circumstances. For example, the 5-year plan could involve finding a spouse, but then you actually end up having a kid with that spouse in those 5 years. That means you need to adjust the 5-year plan to raising a kid. Because at the end of the day, we have to be able to respond to dynamic changes in our lives. Because at the end of the day, this plan cannot be rigid and has to be evolving with the time and the circumstances that you are in. For me personally, I've never completed a 5-year plan from start to finish. It's just impossible based on how young I was at the time. That's because my earlier years were just not stable because of school and work changes. And every 5 years, I had to switch schools, jobs, or even cities. So that meant I had to change my 5-year goals along the way and adjust to my new conditions. Usually, if I made the plan well, some of those goals will carry over with me from city to city, so I didn't have to start from scratch. But minor goals that were city, job, or people specific had to change. For example, my goal when I started graduate school was to get a PhD, but halfway through I decided to take a job instead. Because the big goal for the next 5 years was to work on that PhD and get a doctorate's degree. But because I got a master's degree and a job offer, I just couldn't say no to that offer. It forced me to reevaluate my entire life because I had to pack up and move to a completely different city for that job. It was a big change and I had to completely write a new 5-year plan for myself. So keep that in mind when you're making a 5-year plan because your life will change in those 5 years. Especially if you're not living in a stable condition and things change around you all the time. And number 4, reflect on wins. Celebrating wins along your 5-year plan is a joyous way to celebrate the completion of milestones. And it's an essential practice to maintain motivation and perseverance through tough challenges. Take the time to celebrate the small wins when you're making your milestones, because it reinforces your commitment to the plan and it gives you something to go on. And these wins gives us something to reflect on, that we're making progress to better ourselves in our lives. And it gives you a more positive mindset for change in your life. And at the end of the day, it shows you that planning for your life is a worthwhile activity and it's crucial to maintaining and achieving your goals. It was very, very important that I celebrate the small wins in my 5-year plans. This means that when I got a new job, moved to a new city, or got a promotion, that I celebrated what I've accomplished. And I also went through some self-reflection on what that actually means in the context of my life. This gave me a sense of joy and motivation to complete further goals into the future, no matter how hard they would be. I just know that at the end of the day, I'll feel good about myself and that pushes me through. Personally, I like to delay gratification on most things, so this helps right in line with the small wins. But there are times that I need to give myself a little break and let loose on the reins just for a little bit and take some pleasure in accomplishing all my goals. At the end of the day, I have to remember that life is a journey, that I have to enjoy the process of going through life and look at all that I've accomplished and just be happy with what I've got. So during the crafting of my 5-year plan, it's definitely helpful to celebrate the small wins along that journey. So here are my general thoughts. As I'm getting older, making a 5-year plan gets harder and harder to do. Things that I normally want to try to do or complete, I don't have the time for or the bandwidth to do. There are things that I want to do in the next 5 years, but I have to prioritize my time to my family. This means that more and more, my plans are shifted to the back burner unless I find more available time or I deprioritize something else in my life. But with that in mind, maybe my 5-year goals are more family-oriented and not self-oriented like my previous life. Because at the end of the day, my 5-year plan could just be raising a good son. So I'm not actually sure what my future plans will be yet. Lastly, goals are just that, goals. Don't be afraid to deviate from your originally set out goals. Sometimes they're just not worth it for you. Because sometimes when we create that plan, we want to stick to it religiously without deviation whatsoever. And you can feel like an absolute failure by not completing that goal or shifting your 5-year plan too much. Or if you just don't set out to complete what you wanted to do. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Remind yourself that this is a 5-year plan and you're in it for the long term. It's a marathon, not a sprint. As time changes, you might change, so you might not want the same things as you wanted 5 years ago. It's also maybe not the right time for you to execute on that 5-year plan. Maybe you need to change it for the next phase of your life. So be aware that you might need to scrap your 5-year plan and don't take it as a failure. Take it as an opportunity to figure out what you really want and work on getting the time available and the commitment to actually finishing that 5-year plan. Or saying to yourself you need to scrap your current plan and start over with a completely new 5-year plan. So those are some of my lessons learned when crafting a 5-year plan. I think having a good plan at any age is a great reminder of what you need to accomplish in the next couple of years. It really helps us to focus the mind and figure out what we need to do step by step. And it gives you a guide or a roadmap so you can look at it from day to day and not get depressed if things aren't going your way during a down period. Because there are those days in which we get lost in the sameness of day in and day out and we forget what we want to actually do in life. And without that plan in place, we might just be treading water and doing the same things over and over each and every day without growing. In my life, these 5-year plans have helped me to motivate to get myself to the next level of my life, even when the pursuit of my dreams seems so far away as a child. So I hope you can take some of the lessons that I learned about crafting a 5-year plan and apply it to yourself. So thank you for watching. Please leave a comment down below on do you have a 5-year plan and what are some of the goals in that plan? And I'll see you next time.